What's up everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Filmmaking and Cinematography Podcast. I'm Alex and today we're diving into a topic that's at the heart of visual storytelling, composition. When we talk about composition in filmmaking, we are really talking about how the arrangement of elements within the frame influences the story you're telling. It's about guiding the viewer's eyes, conveying emotions, and ultimately shaping the narrative. So whether you're a seasoned cinematographer or just starting out, this episode is for you. Let's break down how composition can make or break your story. Before we get into the nuts and bolts of composition, let's take a step back and think about why composition matters so much. Think of it like this: every frame of your film is a painting, and every element within that frame tells a part of your story. The way you arrange these elements, the actors, props, and even the negative space affects how your audience perceives the scene. A well-composed shot can convey tension, joy, fear, or intimacy without a single word being spoken. That's the power of composition. Let's start with one of the most fundamental principles of composition, the rule of thirds. You've probably heard of it before. It's the idea that if you divide your frame into a 3x3 grid, the most visually appealing compositions place the subject along these lines, especially at the intersections. Why does this look so well? You might ask yourself. Well, it creates a sense of balance and dynamicy in your shot. Placing your subject off-center rather than dead in the middle tends to be more engaging to the viewer's eye. But remember, the rule of thirds is just a guideline, not a hard and fast rule. Sometimes breaking it intentionally can be just as powerful. For instance, placing a character in the center of the frame can convey a sense of isolation or focus that might be lost if they are off to the side. So as you set up your shots, consider how the rule of thirds can help you tell your story. If there's a moment your character needs to feel slightly off balance or lost, place them on one of the grid lines. Do they need to command attention? Put them right in the center. My absolute favorite example of this, and I talked about this also in some other episode, is a shot of my short film, actually feature film, White Times, where we see a perfect symmetric room. Everything is dead centered and symmetrical on each side, but then we have the character who is lonely, who is lost with his thoughts, and this is why we place him really to the side, completely off balancing the whole shot and intentionally breaking the rule of thirds, and this achieved the right storytelling. Next up, let's talk about leading lines. These are lines within your frame that guide the viewer's eyes towards a specific point of interest, usually your subject. Leading lines can be anything from a road stretching into the distance to the edge, or a table, or a row of trees. They help to create depth, draw attention, and can lead the viewers through the narrative. So mostly they lead the viewer's eyes to the main subject that further tells the story. One of my favorite uses of leading lines is in perfectly static shots. Just imagine a character walking down a hallway. The camera is maybe centered within those walls and the character is just walking straight away from the camera, with the walls and ceiling lines all converging towards them. It pulls the viewer into the scene, making them feel like they're part of the journey. It also helps the viewer identify the subject faster. Mostly if we have some fast-paced cutting, then we absolutely need to use the leading lines, because if the viewer will take some time to look for the subject or for the main elements, then they will lose the sense for the story. And it's not just about the physical lines. Impaired lines, like a character's gaze or the direction an object is pointing, can be just as powerful. The next time you're setting up a shot, look for natural lines in your environment and think about how they can be used to enhance your composition. Now, back to the symmetric and off-balanced example from my movie. As said, symmetry and balance are another set of tools that can really elevate your storytelling. Symmetry in a shot, where elements are mirrored on either side of the frame, can create a sense of order or even beauty, depending on the context. Together with a balanced or unbalanced subject, you can really tell the story, as said in the example before. So on the other hand, playing with imbalance, where the composition feels off or weighted to one side, can convey tension or instability. For example, if a character is framed on one side of the screen with a vast empty space behind them, it might suggest that they are feeling overwhelmed or alone. This kind of imbalance draws the viewer's attention and makes them think more deeply about what's happening in the scene, exactly as the example said before. But right now you might beg the question, when should you use symmetry or imbalance? It all depends on the story you're trying to tell. Symmetry works well on scenes that need to feel controlled or picture-seek, while imbalance can add drama or tension. Don't be afraid to mix it up and experiment with how these techniques affect the mood of your scenes. And you can also combine them together. It's all about your creativity and your own storytelling style. Now, framing within a frame is a classic technique that can add layers of meaning to your composition. This involves using elements within your scene, like windows, doorways, or even shadows, to create a, let's call it, frame around your subject. It can focus the viewer's attention, create a sense of enclosure, or emphasize the importance of the character or object within the frame. For example, shooting a character through a doorway can make them feel trapped or isolated, while framing them with light through a window can symbolize hope or freedom. It's all about how you use framing elements to enhance your narrative. My absolute favorite example using these techniques comes from my favorite series on Apple TV Plus, which is Severance. Here we have a shot with two characters. I'm not gonna name them to not spoil the content for people who want to watch it. I really recommend it. But the thing that I love the most is a shot where we have two characters. One of them sits in a vast empty space, but the other one is being shot through a, let's say, through a shelf. And this shelf creates a margin, a frame around him, trapping him in. So his head is trapped within that shelf, but the other character is just into the open air. And this tells the perfect story, that one character enjoys the freedom or has freedom, while the other one does not have. Perspective also plays a huge role in composition. A low angle shot can make a character appear powerful or intimidating, while a high angle can make them seem vulnerable or insignificant. The distance from your subject, whether you're shooting close-up, medium or wide, also changes the story. Close-ups draw attention to the character's emotions, while wide shots can highlight the environment of the character's relationships to the space around them. A great technique I always love to use is to first shoot the subject really close, so using close-ups, maximum some medium shots when we want the viewer to be really close to the subject to feel his emotion. But sometimes when the story gets to a point where the character is at the most down point, so he doesn't have any escape, is the worst point in his life, then we go on to some wide shots. We show that the character is alone, the viewer goes away, and we show that at first, at the beginning of the movie, the viewer was together with the character, but right now even the viewer left the character alone. But we can't talk about composition without touching on color and light. These two elements are incredibly powerful in shaping the mood and tone of your scene. The colors you choose for your composition, whether it's the set design, costume or lighting, can evoke specific emotions or highlight themes in your story. For instance, a composition dominated by warm tones like red, orange and yellow can feel inviting or intense, while cool tones like blue and green can create a sense of calm or detachment. Contrasting colors can make certain elements pop, drawing the viewer's attention to the specific parts of the frame. An example for this is again from my movie, where we have the main character. I don't want to spoil the content, but you're gonna find the link for the movie in the description below. The main character is left alone by his wife. His wife dies. So at the beginning of the movie, when they are together, where they are not really shown together, but we tell the viewer the message that they are together, we see warm light and an inviting tone. But after the wife dies, we see the same tone in the background, but he is lit up by some greenish, bluish lights. And this shows the same idea that I said before, the detachment. So he's detached from that inviting place. So as said, light of course is just as important. The way you light your scene affects not only the visibility but also the mood. Hard light can create strong shadows and a sense of drama, while soft light tends to be more flattering and gentle. Think about how you can use light to enhance the composition and tell your story. whether it's by creating depth, highlighting a subject, or setting the atmosphere. So there you have it. Composition is more than just making your shots look good. It's a powerful tool that, when used effectively, can completely change the storytelling of your film. It can draw the viewers into your world and evoke deep emotional response. Whether you're experimenting with the rule of thirds, playing with symmetry, or using colors and lights to set the mood, always keep in mind how your composition is serving your narrative. So that's all for today's episode of the Filmmaking and Cinematography Podcast. I hope you gained some valuable insights into how composition shapes the story of your telling. If you've got any questions or want to share your favorite compositional techniques, feel free to reach out on social media or simply drop a comment below. Thank you so much for tuning in, and as always, keep experimenting and stay creative.